Okay, we left the origins of the universe. The concept is called cosmology. So what we're talking about is found under cosmology, but it's physical cosmology. I mean, there's another cosmology. It has to do with signs and the stars and stuff. But this is the cosmology that deals with the origins of the universe, okay? Now, our universe grew to its present size, okay? It didn't grow to its present size from a dot, okay? Now, in physics is fun. I remember memorizing, just like I remember memorizing the Nicene Creed, okay? Greek Orthodox Creed. It goes like this. I believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and of all things visible and invisible. Okay? It's the story of creation. Now, there's just a little twist to that with the Big Bang theory. It goes like this. I believe that from a dot on a piece of paper, from the size of a dot, from the volume of a dot on a piece of paper, that the universe grew to its present size, form, and mass. Okay? If you believe in the Big Bang Theory, recite that, because that is what you believe. Okay? That is what you are giving. From the size of a dot on the period of a page, the universe grew to its present size and form and mass. Okay? Now, just like with God, we don't know what came before God. And just like in the Big Bang Theory, we do not know what came before the dot. Okay? We don't know how all the mass in the universe got concentrated into the dot. Okay? So since it's not reversible, since the Big Bang Theory is not reversible, it's absurd. Okay? Now, I don't want to get into religion, but similarly, since humanity and the concept of God has only been around for like 10 million, at most, a few 100,000 years, and even though erroneously given as 14 billion years, so the concept of God and the concept of a Big Bang is the same thing. That God created everything visible and invisible, or everything popped out of a lamp like a genie. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay, you choose one, you can believe the other. There's no difference. Okay, it's a belief. There's no scientific basis for it. Well, there is a little scientific basis. It has to do with a false assumption. Okay, turns out that astrophysicists, when Hubble discovered the Hubble flow redshift as a way to measure distance, okay? The greater the redshift, the farther away that a galaxy or a star is, okay? And then the calculations for this distance ratio to redshift was further fine-tuned, okay? But it's all based on the false assumption that redshift from faraway stars, billions of light years away, is Doppler redshift, okay? So the Hubble flow redshift does accurately tell you how far away the light source was when the light was emitted. Okay, and as far as they can tell, I mean, it could have been emitted as far away as 13.77 billion years ago. Okay, so that would make the size of the universe. I mean, if it's on both sides of us, if we're near the center, okay, that would make the universe with a diameter of about 28 billion light years. Okay, so our universe is large. Okay, and then they do calculations that there are about 2 trillion galaxies, not stars, 2 trillion galaxies in our universe, in our visible universe. But this is where a misinterpretation of Hubble flow redshift as Doppler redshift. This is okay. So if you discount the Hubble flow redshift, you end up with something they call peculiar velocities, and it's interesting that the actual velocities of stars is called peculiar velocities, where the false velocities of stars is called actual velocities. So the Hubble flow redshift, if you assume it's a Doppler redshift, that leads to an expanding universe. But no, they're not saying that stars are moving away at superluminal speed. Okay, there's another trick to their logic. Okay, so they know, astrophysicists know, okay, they know that nothing can move faster than the speed of light. So when their redshift, based on the assumption that it's all Doppler redshift, showed that the universe was expanding at superluminal speeds, well, that's not possible. Okay, so they came up with a funny. Okay, they said that the galaxies are not moving, which is not true, because we know our local galactic group is moving. Okay, we know stars orbit our galaxy, and we know our galaxy interacts with Andromeda, and we know we have satellite galaxies that interact with us. And so if the Hubble flow redshift was true, then our galaxy would be separating. But all observers see the same thing. So all the local galactic groups of all the observers in the universe, their local galaxy is not expanding because they all see things the exact same way that we see them. That's what they tell us, okay? So if we know that our local galactic group is not expanding, every other observer in the universe knows that their local galactic group is not expanding because they see the exact same thing that we do. Okay? So that means that none of the local galactic groups in the universe are expanding based on the observations of all the observers in the universe. Okay? They together know that the universe is not expanding. There was never a Big Bang theory accuracy. It's false. Okay, the universe did not pop out of a lamp. Okay, it's not physically possible to put the universe in a lamp. So it's not physically possible that the universe popped out of a lamp. That's a fact. Irrefutable. Okay. Now, you can believe that. But if you're given a test, you also have to know what the Big Bang Theory says. Okay. And it says that from a dot, out came the universe. And if you're in Sunday school, you have to know that God created everything visible and invisible. You can't contradict the authorities there, because then you'll be a heretic. Okay? So scientists can't contradict the Big Bang Theory because they'll be heretics. Okay? But the Big Bang Theory is just a religion. Okay? With a assumption about Doppler, about the Hubble flow redshift being Doppler redshift. And Hubble, for his entire life, told everybody, look, if you believe that the Hubble flow redshift that I discovered is Doppler redshift, then you are reading too much into the redshift. One day it will be explained to you why the Hubble flow redshift is not Doppler redshift. Okay? So we have several proofs. One interesting proof is reductio ad absurdum. Okay? The universe cannot be put into a dot, and the universe cannot come out of a dot. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, if someone tells you otherwise, tell them, well, put the universe back in a dot. Okay, I'll give you 10 years. Go ahead, do it. Nobody can put the universe back into a dot. Okay, so the universe did not come out of a dot to its present size and form. Okay. Now, we know that life grew on Earth. It grew from a sea. It grew from a sea, okay? And there were atoms, nucleons in that sea, atoms. And then those atoms combined into phospholiptics, and they combined into protein chains. And then those protein chains developed a wall around a single cell plant or a single cell amoeba. Okay. Similarly, that's how a nucleon developed. Okay. The way to think of a hydrogen atom, a proton, and a neutron. Okay. The way to think of it is that in the primordial ether particle ocean of the universe, okay, we define the smallest particle of mass in the universe as God particle 1, GP1. We have to start for something, okay? I know that I exist. I know there's a TV here. I know I didn't build that TV. I know there's a light here. I know I didn't make that light bulb, okay? So there are a lot of other people in this universe. I mean, in this planet. Okay, similarly, we know that life grew, okay, in the ocean and developed into protein chains. Well, in order to get to the nucleon, which is the basis for atoms, okay, and we know there are atoms smaller than the proton and the neutron. There's the electron at about 1/1850th of the size of the proton, okay? And then you can go a millionth smaller, okay? So it would be half a billionth the size of a proton is the electron neutrino that can be measured, okay? So far, we can only measure to 1/2 billionth the size of the 1/2 billionth the size of a proton or a neutron. That's as small as we can measure, and it's the electron neutrino. So it has a very tiny bit of mass. But to get down to the size of the ether particle, the smallest particle that makes up the ether ocean of the universe, okay, the God particle 1, okay, you have to go to Planck length or smaller, okay? Now, Planck length is an arbitrary small length, okay? I don't know how they came up as it's the smallest recognizable length, but it's just a hypothesis, okay? Could be sub-Planck length, okay? So we don't know the exact size of the God particle 1s, okay? All we know is that they're elastic, and like carbon fibers, they can connect with each other and they can make strands. And then the strand 1s can combine with other strands to make longer strands, just like we have protein chains, okay, and phospholipids, okay, to make a one-cell animal or plant cell, okay, one cell, okay. So in order to make a nucleon, okay, a nucleon sac, okay, or a quark sac, or an electron sac, or a electron neutrino sac, okay, you need these strands similar to carbon fibers, okay? You need them to form a sac, okay? And somehow through the ether pumping of the universe, these strands form sacs, and inside the sacs develop compressed GP1 pressure, okay? So, and the reason for all this is because the universe has to be in a finite volume, okay? If the universe was not in a finite volume, then we would not have a cosmic microwave background radiation, because the waves could not bounce back from the edges of the universe. They would just keep going. And without the microwaves, the microwave electromagnetic waves, without them bouncing back from the edges of the universe, there would be no CMBR. It wouldn't be able to unify. So the only way that the CMBR can exist, okay, without going to nothing, no bounce between our ether particles, okay? So what Adoni, that's me, Adoni the physics guy, my premise, my assumption is that the God particle 1s developed a positive ether pressure. They started bouncing, and this bouncing eventually caused some of them to hook up, and the hooking up caused more bouncing, okay? So the exact mechanics of that, I don't know, okay? But we do know that the universe has a finite volume, okay? Because otherwise we would not have a cosmic microwave background radiation, because it would just keep expanding out. It would be lengthening. It would not be bouncing back and harmonizing into the cosmic microwave. And these are physical waves. These are physical waves. Electromagnetic waves are physical waves of God particle 1s. and also neutrino sex, and also electron sex, and also nucleon sex, and also atomic level sex. Okay? So all these things are in our universe, in an ocean, of ether particles. Now, the reason how we know that the universe has a positive ether GP1 pressure, that these God particle ones bounce off each other, okay? We know it's because of the CBR. If they didn't bounce off each other and off the edges of the universe, we would not have a CMBR. Okay, so because we have a cosmic microwave background radiation, we know that the universe, is finite in volume. Okay, now you ask, how do we know that the universe has a positive ether pressure? Well, look at the Earth, okay? Now, the Earth has a positive atmospheric pressure, and the reason for this is because of gravity. But the reason that we have gravity is because of the high ether pressure in our solar system, okay? So we have the Earth through constant cycles and heating up, okay? So when you pump ether particles inside a nucleon, a nucleon, you compress space into a lower volume. So the Earth at the center has very low ether pressure. And because the outside pressure in the solar system is higher, then there becomes an invisible disk of God particle 1 accretion disk. So the Earth has an invisible accretion disk of God particle 1s. The Sun has an invisible accretion disk of God particle 1s. And this is how gravity is generated. Now, gravity can only exist. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice and burping. Gravity can only exist because the ether pressure is higher in the solar system than it is at the center of the Earth. It's higher in the solar system than it is in the center of the sun. It's higher in the intergalactic space than it is in the gravitational center of the Milky Way galaxy and its satellite galaxies. And it's higher in the intergalactic space outside our local galactic group. That is how gravity is generated. It's generated through the accretion of invisible GP1 accretion disks. They all combine together, and by compacting, matter compacts GP1s into a smaller volume, and this decreases the ether pressure. And then as the higher pressure from outside rushes in, it pushes nucleons in, it pushes electrons in, it pushes stars inward. I mean, they all ride in the accretion disk of the respective body. Okay, the moon has an ether particle GP1 accretion disk. Earth has an ether particle invisible GP1 ether disk. Okay, the sun has a GP1 invisible ether particle accretion disk. That's why we have a celestial disk. Okay, that's why the planets are all in the same disk, because of this invisible GP1 ether accretion disk pushed inwards by the higher pressure in the solar system, pushed inwards by the higher pressure in the intergalactic medium. Okay? And the farther away you get from matter, the higher the ether pressure. Okay? And the opposite is true for voids. Voids relative to lower ether pressure systems like the sun and galaxies, voids are cooling. Nucleons are cooling, are net cooling in voids, and that's why they repel. So the reason the dipole repeller void is pushing us towards the normal cluster at 631 kilometers per second, the reason we're being pushed and pulled, okay? We're being pulled because of the matter over densities towards the normal cluster, and we're being pushed. The matter over densities are heating up, generating gravity and pulling us, and the dipole repeller is cooling and generating dark energy and pushing us, okay? But those things only occur up to about 1,000 kilometers per second, okay? So you don't get these peculiar velocities are the actual velocities, okay? They're not fictitious Doppler redshift velocities, okay? So in our concept, Adoni's concept, Adoni the physics guy's concept of the universe, okay, the overdensities are going to eventually heat up to a point, and they're going to be so much neutron stars over infinite time, okay? Now, while the universe is finite, while the number of GP1s is finite, okay, the age of the universe is infinite, okay? The age of the universe is infinite, okay? So, and we know this because a cloud cannot make enough stars and make enough a hydrogen cloud, hydrogen helium cloud, cannot make enough stars and enough white dwarfs and enough black holes and neutron stars. It can't make enough to make a super massive black hole in a billion years. It couldn't even do it in a quadrillion times a quadrillion times a quadrillion times a quadrillion, you know. Put 1 with a quadrillion zeros after it, okay? You can't make a supermassive black hole. It's impossible. It takes a long time. We'll discuss more. I'm losing my voice again. We'll discuss more on how those supermassive black holes form over infinite time, like 1 with a quadrillion zeros after it, years, okay? A quadrillion zeros after it, years. That's how long it takes to make a black hole. Talk more later. Bye.